Good morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Eric Green. Well, if you saw the crawl on the bottom of the screen there, on the top of the screen, you are aware that a tornado warning has been issued here for portions of Apache County. Now, this storm cell was issued as a tornado warning from the Flagstaff National Weather Service, so well off to our west and, right along the Arizona and New Mexico state line right here. We're in a bit of a radar void where we can't really see the bottoms of storm systems. This is a radar indicated tornado warning that's been issued basically for the Window Rock Airport. This storm system is moving to the east and northeast. It did exhibit rotation on radar, at least in the middle and upper levels. And so there is the potential for a tornado to have occurred or developed, but we don't have any confirmation or ground truth that a tornado has actually hit the area so far, but there is a potential for that to happen. So, we can try to look at the storm from the Albuquerque radar, which is, well, on the eastern side of the Continental Divide, and you can see it's almost less of the middle of the storm from this particular view. So we'll go back and turn on that Flagstaff radar and look at the storm this way. So at the Window Rock Airport is the last known site of this severe thunderstorm that potentially could produce a tornado. And again, a tornado warning has been issued for Window Rock, and this storm, it's moving to the north and east at 30 miles per hour inside of this red box right here. So the tornado warning, it has yet to be extended on the New Mexico side of the state line. Other than Window Rock, these are very rural areas. So as we draw the squall line here and talk about what the storm or where it could hit, basically in and around Window Rock at 1050 and then crossing the state line here into the Navajo Nation and potentially still spinning up a tornado or maybe just producing some very strong wind gusts. But this is a dangerous situation if you live in and around Window Rock. You do want to take cover, interior, sturdy shelter, interior room, hopefully away from windows, and just let the storm pass right on by. I'm going to jump back just a little bit and give you a look at the radar replay so we can just get another peek at what's going on, because this is going to continuously update here once I reset this and stay updated as the loop does progress. Now, the core of the storm system that was over the Window Rock Airport looks like it is basically right on top of the state line. So this has been a quick mover, and I'm going to reset my computer here just to see if I can get a little bit of new information as to whether or not a tornado was observed or reported at the Window Rock Airport or not. But the latest message from the National Weather Service: storm capable of producing a tornado located over the Window Rock Airport, 47 miles to the southeast of Chinle, moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. We cannot rule out some flying debris in the area, some damage to structures. So again, if you are underneath this storm or in the path of this storm around Window Rock or just off to the east, you do need to take shelter immediately. We're talking about finding an interior room, and hopefully one that is away from windows, and just let this storm pass. It is producing frequent lightning strikes, and right now it looks like the core of this storm system is, well, just east of the Window Rock Airport at this time, probably right on top of the state line. And again, the difficulty with this area and why they have been lobbying for a radar to be installed up around the northwest plateau here of New Mexico in the Four Corners area is because the radar in Flagstaff and the radar in Albuquerque have a real tough time seeing the lowest levels of storm systems. We kind of catch the middle and upper levels of them as these radar beams have to shoot up over the mountains and find these storms. So here is where we have this active tornado warning. It is active until 11 o'clock. So at this point, we plan to stay live on the air right up until 11 or until this tornado warning has been canceled. But right now it is still in effect. Again, it's radar indicated rotation. We have not had reports of a tornado being observed just yet, but if you live in and around Window Rock, and now this is the radar in Albuquerque looking over the Continental Divide and catching this storm top right here. And you can see there's a big rain shield out ahead of this storm system as well. But it's the Arizona side of the state line that we have the big time concerns about. And let's jump back over to that Flagstaff radar. I think this gives us just a little better look at the storm system. There are more clusters of storms off to the west and southwest. So it's not just this cell that we have to worry about. More could be moving on through later on today. But again, we officially do have a tornado warning that's been issued for portions of Apache County. This storm is about, what did they say, 47 miles to the southeast of Chinle right here, almost directly over the Window Rock Airport. It was radar indicated rotation, but this storm, it's rapidly pushing off to the north and east. And, by the time we get to the state line and work east, these are very rural areas, but I'm sure there are probably some individual residences and maybe a couple of very small communities tucked away that could be in the path of this storm system. But when we drew the squall line track to try to find some communities, we didn't really have anything too significant that did pop up. This tornado warning, It's in effect until 11 this morning. So what are we looking at, 10:52? We've got another 7 minutes with this that we'll need to keep our eyes on it. But there is northeasterly motion to this storm system, and in the path out ahead of it, we're pretty sure it's just some rural areas right now that are already getting rained on. The core of this storm system may have actually exited the warning box. So let's go back and just reset that radar loop and get a fresh look at it. Hopefully we can get a new scan and a new location on the storm system by doing so. So as we let the radar play and watch the storm propagate to the north and east, I'm just going to go over here and look at my weather computer and see if there's any new information to be gathered from the National Weather Service in Flagstaff that issued this warning. And so the warning is for northeast Apache County, in northeastern Arizona here until 11. This warning was issued at 10:37. The statement is a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located directly over the Window Rock Airport, 47 miles southeast of Chinle, moving to the northeast at 30 miles per hour. Watch for flying debris. This is a dangerous situation. If you live in and around this storm system or are in the path of it, you do need to take shelter right now in a sturdy structure, an interior room, on the lowest level. Hopefully that is going to be away from windows, and just let the storm system pass on by. And I think we can probably safely say that the immediate Window Rock Airport area is already on the backside of this storm system in areas just to the north and northeast of the Window Rock Airport right now, where the storm system is potentially heading. And again, we talked about the challenges of the radars seeing the lowest levels of these storm systems, because there's one in Flagstaff that's quite a ways to the west here of the Window Rock area. And then of course we have the radar in Albuquerque that's on the other side of the Continental Divide. And by the time you shoot beams up into the clouds, you're looking at the middle and upper levels of a storm system and not necessarily the bottom of it where a tornado would be occurring. So it's difficult to exactly see what's going on near the ground, waiting perhaps for some people in the area to give us some ground truth as to whether or not a tornado did spin up or not. But the potential for a tornado to occur and to exist is in play right now until 11 a.m. So that is 6 more minutes. So we're just going to stay live on the air right now and watch this storm system move on through. There's no doubt some strong gusty winds and heavy rainfall occurring near the storm system, even if it is not producing a tornado. But again, directly over the Window Rock Airport is where we had a tornado warning issued. I'm going to jump on the Weather Service chat here and just see if they have some new information on that storm system as well, because this is a potentially very dangerous situation. And you know what? If you live around the Window Rock Airport or up around Chinle, this is not necessarily going to be all that we see today. We could see potentially more rounds of storms moving on through, and potentially more severe weather, and potentially more tornado warnings. That certainly can't be ruled out. We identified this area earlier for you this morning on more in the morning here when we were talking about the severe weather potential in this part of the state. And let's just put that warning box and information up on the screen right there so you can see the exact area that we're focused on. It is just on the Arizona side of the state line, but we knew this area was going to be ripe for potentially producing large hail and some damaging wind gusts anyway. And this is a storm system that had radar indicated rotation. There was not a tornado observed on the ground from this storm system. It was just radar indicated. Right now, it just does look like, from the latest radar information, that the storm system has pushed just east of the warning box. It's only in effect for another, well, 4 minutes and 17 seconds by the big studio clock. So I would suspect that this tornado warning that is on the Arizona side of the state line will be allowed to expire at 11, and then we'll wait and see if they reissue it on the New Mexico side of the state line. But I tend to think that that is probably not going to happen, because I think that the storm is already into New Mexico and a warning would have likely already been issued for it. And I'm not seeing any type of information like that from the National Weather Service office here in Albuquerque, and I've got a direct feed to the chat that they host, and I'm not finding any information on that. But there have been strong storms in this area here basically all morning long. The sky didn't even really settle here like it did around Albuquerque. This has been a very active spot. So let's just get another look at the storm motion. And as long as we have a couple minutes to talk about this, just discuss the challenges. Remember, there is a radar in Flagstaff. There is a radar in Albuquerque. They're both a long ways away from this particular spot. And when we point the radar beam at this location and go out a couple hundred miles, well, the radar beam is way up above the ground in the middle levels of the atmosphere. And so that's where we're sampling this storm system. And so it's tough to see what's happening near the ground where a tornado would actually be occurring. We have yet to get any confirmation from people that are at the Window Rock Airport that a tornado did occur. So we're hoping that it didn't happen, but the potential was certainly there, observing the rotation from the storm system on radar there about 30 minutes ago. So we still have, it looks like, about 2.5 minutes left of this tornado warning. This is going to take us right on into our 11 o'clock newscast. So we will no doubt continue to cover this area, whether or not this tornado warning is extended upon or whether or not it is allowed to expire. But we knew today was going to be a pretty serious weather day, and this morning tornado warning, they are pretty rare. It's already got us thinking that these storms are going to be feisty, and they're probably going to start to push into the Albuquerque metro as we approach the dinner hour. Right now it's well off to our west. So the latest here as we hit 10:57 and about 50 seconds on the big studio clock. So 2 minutes left on this tornado warning. Looks like the storm cell has basically exited the warning box. It may be right on that northeastern edge of it, but I think the strongest part of this storm is now on the New Mexico side of the state line, and we certainly have lost the strong storm core associated with this one. But boy, this could be the first of many severe thunderstorm warnings, and potentially we could pop a couple more tornado warnings from these storm systems that are draped across western New Mexico. This is expected to be a very active afternoon and evening. So again, just to recap, if you are in the path of this storm system just to the north and east of this Window Rock Airport area, this is a potentially very dangerous situation here. So you do need to seek shelter in a sturdy structure on the lowest levels. Hopefully that is also away from windows, because there could be some flying debris in the area. Even if there wasn't a tornado, there's likely some very heavy downpours, strong gusty winds, and we are eyeing up frequent lightning strikes in the area. Well, it says about 10:58 and 30 seconds here. So we're down to 90 seconds left on this tornado warning, and I'm just going to recheck my data real quick here for you just to make sure we haven't had any ground truth or confirmation of a tornado actually existing in the area. Otherwise, I do believe that this tornado warning will be allowed to expire in the next 75 seconds or so. So we'll keep the radar up here for you, just because this is a potentially dangerous situation. And if you're just tuning in right now, yes, a tornado warning was issued for a storm system that was directly on top of the Window Rock Airport, and right now it looks like the core of that storm system has weakened some. We've lost the brightest colors on the radar, and it also looks like the storm system has essentially moved outside of the warning area, and we have not seen any kind of warnings extended or reissued here as we eye up the New Mexico side of the state line. So as we're riding down the last 40 seconds, Darlene Melendez has joined us in the studio here, and we are about to kick off Action 7 News at 11 this morning. We're just going to roll right into the show here in about another 30 seconds. But right now, there could be more warnings issued here for Apache County in northeast Arizona for additional storm systems that, look at them develop just off to our west and southwest. You can see Albuquerque. We are still a long ways away from these storms hitting here. Most of the action has stuck pretty close to the Arizona-New Mexico state line. So by my eyes here, there's 10 seconds left on this tornado warning, and I do not believe that it will be allowed to continue or get reissued, but there could be new severe thunderstorms and potentially more tornado warnings issued. So this is a potentially dangerous situation that we will continue to monitor. But by my eyes, the clock sits at 11, and yes, that tornado warning box, you can see it there drop off the map. It has been allowed to expire.